Hello, friends. Tattooed Biker here with you. And welcome back to Freakish Fridays. Tonight, I have 6 true viewer experiences to share with you, where people witness strange and unidentified winged creatures and cryptids. So keep your eyes to the sky and let's ride. Number 1. Dear Tattooed Biker, I saw something I can't explain and wanted to share my story. We were driving home from our vacation in Florida. It was on Saturday, June 3rd, 2016, just after dinner around 8 p.m. We were passing through North Carolina on I-95, and I was cruising along at around 70 miles per hour when I noticed a large camper in my rearview mirror. I moved to the right lane and thought nothing more of the vehicle as it passed me on the left. The interior was lit up and all the blinds were down. I saw several silhouettes of people as the camper pulled ahead of and in front of my vehicle. As the camper began to pull away, someone stood up in the back, close to the rear door. All of a sudden, a pair of wings unfolded from the person's shoulder blade area. They were wide and membranous, with claws at a couple of points along the top edge. They reminded me of pterodactyl wings, or thin bat wings. I could see enough light through them to make out the wing bones. That's not all. At the top of the man's head were 2 small curved horns. My first thought was that it was a gargoyle of some kind. I was shocked, to say the least. My family was asleep at the time. The wings appeared to be real, pulsing and flexing as the person, or humanoid, moved toward the front of the camper. As I wondered what to do next, the camper pulled off an exit and disappeared. To this day, I'd swear it was a being with real wings. Thanks for reading. Signed, Rodney. Number 2. Hey Biker, I'm contacting you, along with a few other channels, as I saw something in the night sky with my own 2 eyes. I'm a Reformed Christian. My faith is in Jesus Christ alone, and I believe in the inerrant Word of God. I've been researching what I saw since it happened, and I can't, with absolute certainty, determine what it was or its meaning. It's very important to me to know how to proceed from here, and I'm contacting you to see if you have any information or wisdom about this, and what I should do with it. I live around Slave Lake, Alberta, Canada, and I was awake late on the evening of August 13th, 2023, and I remembered that the meteor shower was happening on August 12th. As I was still up, I thought I'd go outside onto my deck and observe the sky, and maybe catch a glimpse of the meteor shower. It was a clear, calm night with no wind. It was a warm night, and the night sky was crystal clear. I saw a couple of satellites go by very high in the sky. They were the size of pin dots. I was initially looking south. I then turned my eyes to look northwest, and I could see the Big Dipper. I then looked west and saw an orangey, silver-edged glowing sphere of light that was extremely brightly lit, and the colors were moving and swirling within it. I thought to myself, that looks weird, and I was extremely puzzled. As it got closer to my house and to where I was on the deck, it continued traveling on a straight course, not turning or varying its height. It made absolutely no sound, and it came from the western sky, heading east. As it came closer, it definitely appeared to be the likeness of a bird, a large, fiery orange bird. This bird was mainly orange, a fiery orange with silvery white flickering along the edges of its entire body and wings, and the colors were constantly undulating within it. Its body and entire being appeared to be statically, electrically charged. The orange and bright electric white light would move and pulse, and the colors would move and vary as well. It was very, very bright and very obviously a bird type of thing or being. It had a medium-long neck, and I could see it turn its head to look down to its left, towards the street and neighbors below it. It would alternate from looking straight ahead to looking down to its left. It was heading east. It appeared to be looking at the street below, along my front yard and the neighbors along both sides of my street. It didn't seem that it saw me, nor did it look at me or towards me. Its neck glowed purple, almost a purplish gray, and its eyes lit up and looked electric blue or white. It never flapped its wings, yet it was able to maintain the same speed, height, and altitude. If I had to approximate how high up it was, I would say it was about 1 kilometer. It appeared to be about 2.5 to 3 inches wide in the sky. If I were to hold up my arm, extend my hand out, and use my index finger and thumb to measure it in the sky. Throughout this time, I was struggling to comprehend what I was actually seeing. I watched it, and it continued, going east until I lost sight of it. I swear that what I've shared is true. I'm sure you're wondering about my character as a person, and I can assure you that I'm not just some nut looking for attention. I'm a non-smoker, non-drinker, and I've never done drugs, and I'm not taking any prescription medications. I'm of a very sound mind and spirit. I'm sending this to you, and I'm asking if you or your listeners can advise me as to what I saw and what do I do with this observation. Thanks. Signed, Andrew. Number 3. Dear TB, here's my story. It was the summer of June 2013, and the high temperatures weren't helping farmers. Even though it wasn't a dry year in the state, a few weeks had been a little hotter than usual. I live in Altamont, Missouri. When some of us would go water the plants at night, we noticed the strange sounds. I got a phone call from my son at 2 a.m. He was very agitated. I figured something was very wrong. For 2 weeks, the family had been living in a state of stress and insomnia. Every other night, we'd drive to their land to water their cornfield, and there were noises that we had never heard before. See, we didn't know what it was. We know that there are animals out there, we know that, but this sound gave me goosebumps. It goes like a tapping sound, as if somebody was chattering their teeth, only much faster and louder, and then silence, and then there would be shrieking. And these weren't coyotes or wolves or anything like that. Then I saw something that is not from this land, that I'm sure. It was there standing before me as I pointed the flashlight at it. It was darn big. Then a sudden movement, fast as heck, and it was gone. I can only describe it as an 8-foot-tall, winged creature with a long muzzle that resembled the face of an alligator. The creature was featherless, and its skin was gray, with a wingspan of over 80 feet that looked like the wings of a bat. The almond-shaped eyes appeared red under the stream of light pointed at them, a known characteristic of certain rodents, possums, and birds. The only creature that I can reference it to is a pterodactyl, even though I know that sounds crazy. Have you ever heard of other similar sightings in this area? Thanks. Signed, Sean. Number 4. Hi, TB. I live in Newark, New Jersey, and I like exploring old abandoned buildings and locations. Back in May of 2023, I was at the old Essex County Jail, which has deteriorated beyond recognition. There are walls falling down and holes in the ceiling. The entire complex has been left in ruins. It's also a place where squatters and homeless people have moved in throughout the years, but they usually leave pretty quickly. I've been wanting to go in there for a while, so I strapped on my GoPro and headed out one weekend. I planned to spend a full night in the jail. The locks on nearly all the gates have been cut, and there are gaps in the fences, so it was easy to access. There is also a dirt road that leads into the place. I took my time walking along the dirt road, then entering the buildings because I wanted to get some decent shots of the exterior. Once inside, I ventured all over the jailhouse. I soon understood why so many people were creeped out by the place. It was absolutely disgusting and putrid, from the transients coming and going. I decided to make my way to the lookout tower, which was the most comfortable area I could find. I could see my car in case there was a problem, and I had a great view of the entire facility from there. Once it got dark, I got as cozy as I could in my sleeping bag. At around midnight, I was awakened by a loud banging noise. I grabbed my lantern and adjusted the knob to make it brighter. Then I had a clear look at the cause of the racket. A huge figure with giant wings flung itself against the window of the lookout tower. The entire room shook, and I heard the glass starting to crack when it again hurled itself at the window. This thing was absolutely terrifying. It had large red eyes that glowed in the light of my lantern. The body was black and covered in hair. The wings were bat-like and probably over 15 feet wide. It was absolutely massive. I was so shocked by the sight, I started to run down the stairs of the lookout tower to get away, but I stumbled and dropped my lantern. It crashed on the steps, and I was in total darkness. The banging had suddenly stopped. Then I heard the thing take flight on its powerful wings, and soon it was gone. I believe that the creature was a mix of moth, a bat, and a human. Seriously, I believe the light from the lantern attracted it. Since that night, I have talked to other urban explorers who have mentioned the Batman in Newark. I had never heard of it before, but apparently others have. Have you or any of your listeners ever heard of this creature? Thanks for reading. Signed, Anonymous. Number 5. Hey Tattooed, I am forever haunted by this experience and wanted to see what you and your listeners thought about it. It was April 1977. 2 other young guys and myself were in a juvenile detention center in Vergennes, Vermont. It was way out in the country, and we had made plans to escape that day. We asked for passes to walk across the campus to the infirmary. Then, when we got outside, we ran through the apple fields, up along the creek, and headed north. At one point, a bull chased us out onto a tree that had fallen in the water. We finally got away and continued running for what seemed like hours. It was a heart-pounding, drenched with sweat ordeal, going through brush fields in a slightly wooded area. We were extremely tired and running sloppy when all of a sudden what sounded like a helicopter was overhead. We ran under a tree and a big shadow went over us. We looked up and a giant creature landed on a thick branch. We just saw its back at first. It looked like a person's back, but like a bodybuilder's, with rippling muscles and long legs. We were trying to figure out what it was. It was 5 to 6 feet tall. When its head turned completely backwards, these huge, red, orangish round eyes that seemed to be glowing were staring right at us. They had an almost hypnotic effect. We were all suddenly frozen in fear as it looked at us like prey, and it seemed to be looking for the weakest one. All of a sudden, the branch broke from the weight of this creature, but its claws were locked on, and those huge wings unfolded. The wind from those wings was so strong, and it carried the branch up over us and dropped it right in front of us. Then it turned its body while hovering above us. I yelled, grabbed a branch, waved it, and made lots of noise. It looked a little bewildered and very quietly turned away and glided off without hardly making a sound. I believe it thought we were injured prey and probably hunted other animals like that. I also believe it was trying to scatter us by dropping the tree limb nearby. This thing was absolutely huge. My native people's owl legend calls them big hoots. They had horns like horned owls. It was brown with a grayish, speckled underbelly, huge claws that could grab a person, and an enormous beak. I think this is what people call the Mothman. One of the other guys hung himself a few months later. He was really freaked out over the encounter and turned himself in to the authorities. His name was Jim. I believe if we were not hiding from the helicopter we thought was overhead, it would have snatched Jim. He was the weakest and was already lagging behind. It didn't seem to be concentrating on him when it was staring us down with those big, orangish red eyes. I've been telling this story for over 40 years, and most people think I'm crazy. Talk about an owl with a 10-foot wingspan. Anyway, thanks for reading. Signed, William. Number 6. Dear Biker, I had a weird experience. I was driving one Thursday night around 10 p.m. This was in September of 2023, on my way to pick up food in the Glenview area. Prior to picking up my food, I had a super uneasy feeling. I felt very brain foggy and just out of it. I really wasn't focused. I want to think it's stress because of working a 9-to-5 job. So I was driving on West Lake Avenue. I was listening to music and singing along to my favorite playlist. I really wasn't thinking about much. I drove by the cemetery earlier on River Road, which I honestly hate driving by. I started, obviously, feeling pretty spooked, like out of nowhere. I don't know why I was psyching myself out, but I continued to try not to pay any mind to that feeling, and just kept singing along to my music. It was Lady Gaga, so I was definitely singing my heart out. So I kept driving. As I drove by the forest on Westlake Avenue, I quickly saw a creature standing still on the right side of the road. I wanted to believe it was a deer, but this thing I saw was 6 to 7 feet tall, standing upright. Deer don't do that, do they? It had dark gray, cement-like covered body, and its eyes gave out the same red as bicycle reflectors do. That's what made me look. When I quickly locked eyes with it, my stomach dropped, and I got so scared. It's the same feeling you get when riding a roller coaster. I freaked out for a bit, and I was thinking, just keep driving, don't look back. Don't look back. I quickly sped up to the upcoming light and intersection. I wanted to be around other cars and the intersection and more into businesses and around buildings. I kept telling myself, nope, that was a deer. That was a deer, you didn't see anything. I picked up my chicken and drove on to the highway, back home instead. I forgot about it and went to work the next day. I kept thinking about it, so I told my coworker what happened and what I saw. She's into the paranormal and conspiracies and told me about the Mothman that's been seen all over Chicago recently, especially around the O'Hare Airport area. So, throughout my research, I saw the Google Maps sighting site and had to reach out. Again, I never thought I would be doing this, but hey, here I am. Whatever these things are, I hope they're nice. Thanks for reading. Signed, Heather. And there you have it. 6 true viewer encounters with strange winged cryptids. I hoped you enjoyed listening to these accounts as much as I enjoyed reading them. It just goes to show you never know what's really out there. So, thanks for watching. And until next time, stay curious, stay vigilant, stay safe, and I'll be seeing you on down the road a ways. Biker, out.